Hi, everyone. Taryn Reyes. I graduated Brookdale probably over 10 years ago. I'm not sure what the actual date was. I think I've graduated a couple times actually with a couple degrees, different degrees, and a couple certificates as well. I believe the interior design was somewhere around 2006. So I've been in the interior design business for approximately 15 years, just short of 15 years. I'm on my third job now, and there's been quite a transition of just things that I've done. I have a lot of experience in a lot of different fields. I primarily focus on commercial and contract work, and all sorts of, I guess, genres, from retail, a dabble hospitality, multifamily housing, commercial office spaces. I've done a hospital before, which I'm going to show you some stuff. I compiled a nice PowerPoint for you, so I could show you a lot of different things that I've done and kind of how I've transitioned from the time that I graduated at Brookdale until today. So just to give you a little bit of background how I got into this field is that I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I graduated high school. I mean, I guess some people do. My sister did. She wants to be a special education teacher, and she's actually teaches at Lincroft Elementary School right across the way there. But I just didn't know, and my parents are very, I guess, my mother was a microbiology tech. My father is a systems analyst for Sony, so he worked in IT. My uncle was an accountant. My aunt does, we're talking people that do mostly business, kind of very straight line things. So this idea of having a creative field really did not come about, and it really wasn't, it's not that they didn't push me to do that, it just wasn't where my mind was. So when I finished high school, I came to Brookdale, dabbled in a couple different subjects, communications, business, and I was actually in pursuit of a business degree. Got a full-time job while I was going to school here, and then I just didn't like it. I didn't like the rigidness of it. It was a little bit cutthroat, and I wasn't sure that this was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I think the inspiration, I was always like dabbling in interior design, even when I was a teenager. My favorite place, and hands down today, is IKEA. Love IKEA. I designed my room, my bedroom, when I was probably about 15, 16 years old, and I still have that furniture today, which lives in my spare bedroom. And so I was always doing a bit of space planning and measuring how's this all going to work together. So right around the time where I was trying to transition into another choice of major, it was trading spaces. And trading spaces is kind of how I got in love with interior design. Genevieve Gorder was my girl, loved her. And so I'm excited to see them back on the air now. But that's kind of how I said, I really love this. I used to watch it with my mom all the time, and I said, let's do something I love. Like, they have an interior design program, so I came here, and I actually took one class that was for both architecture and interior design because I didn't know which one I really wanted to focus on. Actually, the class was taught by Trent, because I'm seeing him there, and right off, I knew, because we were doing modeling, I forgot the name of the actual class with the kit of parts, and I knew right away that after that class, I'm like, oh no, I belong on the other side of the wall, because I just wanted to paint things like, why don't I just make that pink? Like, and these guys would discuss the way that they were putting these models together, and I'm just like, they clearly think in another way than I'm thinking. So off I came to this side, and that's how I started my path on interior design. After I graduated, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was thinking about going to a four-year school, but I immediately got a job from a friend who went to school here. She had actually gotten a job. She hadn't even finished graduating, and they were looking for somebody, and she said, would you like to come? And I said, sure. The firm is called Design 446. They're located in Manasquan. They're actually not even an interior design firm. They are a marketing and advertising firm. Most of their clients are home builders. That was their focus. So we were dealing with companies like K of Nanian, Pulte, American Properties. I did a lot of sales offices for them, and model homes, clubhouses, and common area spaces. Towards the end of my term there, I was there about 5 years. we were moving more towards the apartment market because people weren't buying houses, and the economy had collapsed at that time. So it was kind of a good thing that it happened that way. You know, I always think like, should I go back to school, and where would that path have brought me? But really, if I would have went to Kane or wherever I would have went to get the 4-year degree, I wouldn't have gotten the experience, and I would have gotten out of school, and we would have been in the mess of a recession, and I wouldn't have been able to find a job. So I think that even though that's not the way I recommend doing things today, it was the right path for me at the time, and it allowed me to get experience where, when we were in a kind of a tough time, somebody who was coming out of school didn't have the experience that I did, so it was easier for me to get a job. These are just some of the projects that I worked at Design 446. This was a sales office, the Ivy at Shrewsbury. This is a temporary sales office. We did space planning for them, so I would do the furniture layouts, and we also space planned the displays on the wall. So we worked in tandem with the graphic designers, which was probably my favorite part about it, and it's what I take away from it today, because that really has carried with me throughout my career. So on the left you're seeing the furniture plan, and on the right is the display plan. And then this is just a simple finished flooring layout and a lighting layout that I did for them. This is the before space. This is actually located right in Shrewsbury. It's now, I think, an Allstate dealer. It was their temporary spot until they got the some of the community built, and then the spot moved into a garage. We were looking for kind of like a sophisticated glamour look, and they already had some branding done, so you can kind of see how that translates into this one room, and we had a lot to fit into a tiny little space. So this is just another before spot picture, and this is the after. I enjoyed a lot about what I did there, and there was a lot that I took away from it. Just the different designing and kind of bringing these large format prints into play, and that even has carried with me today. Here's another project that I did. It's the Views at Hudson Point. This was a model home. It was up in like Jersey City, I think, like it's like Gold Coast, what they called, in Kay-Havnanian. This was an interesting project because they already had existing furniture, and because the economy was kind of collapsing, everybody was, they're trying to save some money. So I had to reuse some of the furniture that we used to store from Kay-Havnanian in our warehouses, and then we incorporated some new stuff in there as well. So for this particular market, we were trying to hit that, the couple that wants to go across to Manhattan, and also they're going to pay a lot of money for these because they were really expensive. I think they range from $400,000 to $600,000. So this was one of the spaces, and this apartment was featured on Open House New York, which is a show on NBC on Saturdays, and they brought the couple in, and they actually ended up purchasing the property because they love the apartment so much. We really want to highlight, and like you tend to give it a little bit of spark and kind of highlight the colors, whether that's an accent wall, and it kind of just draws people in. And they also need to imagine how does my stuff translate into this space? For us, and for people who think creatively, we can kind of see it, and we kind of know how it goes, but apparently this is not a skill that everybody has. So, which I slowly figured out. So you're kind of just giving them an idea of what's going to fit, where should my bed go, where should the desk go, how's that going to all come together. So this is one of the projects that I did with them, and it was successful, obviously, because they bought there. So. This is another project that I did. The Avenue at South Orange has actually won a lot of awards for the Sales and Marketing Awards for New Jersey. It won Best Sales Office, I think, Community of the Year. It was in a retail location up in South Orange. It was a brand new building. It was actually supposed to be condos, which they turned it around and made them apartments. I did a layout for them, so this is just a simple sales office. It has one sales office on the right, men's and women's rooms, and then if you exit to the left over there, then you would be going into the building and upstairs into the apartments. These are the displays that we kind of incorporated into the space. Every builder has a different set of displays that they need to keep within their marketing needs for that space. So you kind of have to figure out new and creative ways to incorporate that and display that for them. and then the lighting plan. So this was kind of nice because we got to develop this from a fresh open space. There was, nothing had ever been there. It was a brand new building, and it still exists today. I'm not sure if it still looks like this, but it still looks today, but this is what the outcome was. Obviously we gave it that pop of orange. It was more of that metro modern kind of look. From this standpoint, I think with this job, one of the things I kind of miss now is that I used to do shopping. I used to merchandise stuff. I don't do so much of that anymore. But it was nice because I got a lot of the little residential touches in, and plus it was a commercial space. So we were still working in the parameters of ADA and accessibility and all that kind of stuff, and picking materials that really are going to withstand time. So another project that I worked on was the Richmond County Country Club. We had a client that was a builder, and he belonged to this country club. It's in Staten Island. They were looking to, we kind of got thrown into it because they were like, hey, can you do a country club? And we were like, okay. So they wanted to expand their ballroom because they had on the bottom, which I don't think this is going to work on the screen. On the bottom, you could see the windows there. We expanded the space into those windows so that they could take advantage of the views. So it was a renovation project. We redid the lighting, and one of the things we had to incorporate was the chandeliers that existed in the space, which you're going to see. They wanted to reuse that in the new space. Here's just some of the selections that I had used during that time. This was a rendering. It wasn't done by me. We had somebody in the office who does beautiful hand rendering. So then we would populate on top of that. And this was done about, I would say, 9 years ago. So it's been a while. Then we had them do another type of rendering. We sent out for a digital rendering. This is what came back. This is the before picture, and all those doors on the left, they were blown out, and so we went that way. And this is what the space looked like afterward. We wanted to keep it neutral so that when clients came in and these younger couples came in, they weren't competing with another color. And if their colors were blue or purple or pink or whatever, that would all play well with the colors that were installed in the job. So we kept everything neutral. We incorporated those lighting fixtures still in the middle, and then added some drum fixtures, which were really nice. And this was kind of my first dabble in what would be hospitality, and I loved it. I custom did the carpet. It was from Shaw. We used their hospitality line. What I did was recolored it and kind of changed the pattern a little bit. So that was a lot of fun. And it was just a cool project to me. It was different than what we were doing. We were doing, sales office, model home. So this was a diversion from that, and it was much welcome. And that's the before that. So you can kind of see they take advantage of the windows over there on the left. This is the pre-function room. I did a carpet that kind of coordinated with the main carpet in the ballroom space.
All those chandeliers you said you kept, did you add those?
Those I added. These we kept. So we just repositioned them. And so we had to figure out a way to incorporate that, but bring in the new as well. Now, I guess I did a little bit of multifamily housing there as well, but before I bore you on that, I currently, now I work at Clark Hinton and Hinst. They are an architectural firm located in Trenton. We actually do 3 things: architecture, planning, and landscape architecture. I was just hired this past summer. It's kind of the culmination of my design experience, and it's an awesome opportunity. I work in the architecture department. There's about 15 architects that I work with. I was the only interior designer up until this week because I hired an intern, thank God, and we'll talk about that at the end. Because we have massive projects, probably bigger than I've ever experienced before, and I cannot even understand how we would have one person doing all of this. But we do a lot of different things. We do 70% is education, higher education, mostly in New Jersey, for universities like NJCU, William Patterson University, Rutgers University, Rowan, I think Stevens, NJIT, NJCU. I don't think I'm missing any. Mercer County Community College. I think we've done some work here at Brookdale as well. And then we also have a dabble of the business that's just everything else. This particular project, I'll show you some of the one of the education projects, but this is Thunderbolt Technologies. We're working on an FAA building down in Atlantic City, right across from the airport. So we're doing the fit outs for them, and one of their clients is Thunderbolt Technology. It's a small little suite. We're doing the space planning. We did the space planning for them in a furniture package. So, you know, I'm handling all of that on the dealer end of things. It's probably a furniture package. It's $200,000 or more with the systems furniture. And this is a pretty small job, so the systems furniture is not, I think we're using Hayworth, is not cheap. We did a little bit of massaging with the client on how they wanted things. And then you can see the reflected ceiling plan that we put together on the right-hand side. And this is a rendering. We did 2 renderings for them to show them 2 different schemes. This was the first one. One of the interesting parts of this job, and it's still in progress. We actually haven't made it past schematic design yet, but they had this painting on the left-hand side, which I should have got a picture of the painting because it's like the death painting. There's like this red river in the middle and there's bombs everywhere. And they're like, we have this painting that we, you know, I went through this whole programming experience with them and I said, at the end, is there anything else that I should know about how you work or, you know, anything that you need? And they're like, oh yes, yes. I have one thing. We have this painting and it's 15 feet long and it's 9 feet wide and we need to keep it in the space somewhere. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We can figure it out. And I'm like, do you have like, where's the photo? I need the photo because I need to incorporate. So they send this crazy photo to me and we're like, oh my God. But so it's like one of those things with a private client, you have to include it. We've looked at it many times, but you're seeing it on the left-hand side. I should have pulled another photo out. But here's the scheme 1. I have a guy in my office, Dan, he's an architect. He is an amazing renderer. He is the best. I work with him a lot because we do a lot of renderings and animations. I'm going to show you one of the animations he's done of this. This is scheme 1. We did baffle ceilings because they kind of wanted this open office effect. And there's just some of the glass walls that we were considering for the job. It's a conference room and a private office. So you can get a look at this. This is scheme 2. So we changed up the carpet color and the accent wall. And you're looking at some of the same thing. They were kind of married on the floor plan, so really it was just about trying to get an idea of what the finishes were going to look like. So the finished product looks like this. Let's see. This is what I call a dance special. I hope this works. This is not the one. I have to be over here. Here we go. Okay. So you can see they kind of took a combination of both of those palettes and used them. I added the accent wall in the back to kind of give it just a little vibe. It's a tech company. They do software for the military. So Dan created kind of a combination of that, and this kind of helps. Whoop. I guess it's just stuck here. All right, let's see. Work, 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 work. It's stuck. Okay. I'll get you get the idea. I'll show you another dance special in a second. But they're very successful as far as the being able to have that kind of visuals to bring to the client. It just helps them, yes, that's Pippa and Gemma, understand better the what you're trying to accomplish. So I enjoy having him right there. It's kind of the first time I've had somebody in the office that is doing that type of work. And I can't do it all. I physically can't do it all. You can only do so many things. So he's amazing and he has so much patience, which is awesome. And I'm just like, change this, move this here, and he does it. And as you can see, the result, it's successful not only for us in our portfolio, but for the client to be able to make a long-term decision on what they want to do. This is William Patterson University. We're redoing the commons. We're now now just getting into design development. This is 3 areas they decided to focus on because they did a student presentation. The whole project is probably going to be about $4 million of renovation of their buildings, and there's specific areas. It's very disjointed, the project. They have several areas, some that they want to kind of revamp, as well as some finishes that are failing on them. So we're looking at replacing some of those. This is the game room, and this is what it looks like today. This is just a palette that I put together for them. We went through the process of doing 3 palettes for them and choosing one. So you could see 2 of Dan's renderings on the left and just kind of some finishes that we have going on and the floor plan of the room. And then this is the cafe that is across the hall, and this is what it looks like today. And then you can see on the top left the rendering of what we kind of are selling to the client and the students as well is a new design and some of the colors there that we're trying to use with the floor plan. And then on the 3rd floor, this is what they call the transit lounge, as well as there's like a soft seating area on the left. Here's the transit lounge. And then there's a couple of Dan's renderings along with some of the finishes that we have for the space. He did another animation of this as well, which was great. This is what William Patterson likes to do with their students, which is kind of crazy for us as designers, but apparently not for them. They do a student showcase, so we did these renderings and created all these animations for them to present to the students. The students then have a survey and they vote on specific items. Do you like this? Do you not like that? They're very hands-on with their students, and I kind of appreciate that. And it was good for me too, because there was some furniture that we had. I was looking for some feedback on what do the students, are they really going to use this? You know, do they like it? There's like some stadium seating, which you can see in the cafe, that I wanted to bring that to the site. So we brought some furniture pieces. So this is the game room. And they had this display up for the students to kind of tease and see, here's your new space. One of my design concepts for this was just bringing some of this William Patterson pride to the different locations without the buildings. There are actually 3 buildings that connect together, and nothing really marries up. So part of that was to, I guess it likes to get stuck at like 23. I wonder if I refresh this. Let's see. Yeah, it's not working. Okay. Technology. Of course. All right, I guess we'll be skipping that. So it's very helpful to have that kind of just do this. Oop, 1 second. Okay. That kind of communication with the students, and it's kind of fresh for me. I enjoy this education part of things. I mean, you get to do a lot of different and new things. The color palettes are more interesting. I've never done education before. I told them straight out, like, I've never done education before, and they're like, that's fine, you'll be fine. Like, if you've done graphics before, you'll be good. I'm like, okay, no problem. So it's good. I like it. The projects are really large. We are actually doing a dormitory for them right now. It should be done this summer. The previous designer that was at the firm actually designed it, but I'm working on the furniture package right now, which is about, I think it's like $800,000 worth of furniture. So it's sizable. It's a lot of work. So here's some words of advice that I have for you guys, if I could give them to you. Me going back 10 years, I would say keep your portfolio updated, because you never know when you're going to be in a new opportunity. Somebody's going to be there to say, hey, you want to have a job here? Maybe it's your dream job. So things move very quickly. So having that ready to go and kind of keeping that updated on a daily basis and weekly basis and monthly, kind of just keeping in touch. Even if it's every 6 months, you kind of revisit it and say, what can I add to this? What am I going to take away? I would say keep that updated, because you never know when an opportunity is going to arise or whether you're going to need a job, and now you have to go through this whole process of updating your portfolio. And the opportunities can go like that. So, if you have something and somebody's asking for it, there might be somebody else who is vying for the same position. They send their portfolio over before you do, and guess what? It's too late. Now the opportunity is gone. So keep your portfolio updated. Second piece of advice, always dress the part. I think that I sell myself, and I think I got this from Celeste here at Brookdale. She always said, you know, make sure you keep your, you know, fingers in check and, like, you know, just look professional, because how am I supposed to sell somebody a beautiful designed room if I look like schleppy and like I didn't really think about it? So I always say dress the part, and that even follows through to how you present yourself as far as your work is concerned, your portfolio. I kind of have a theme going with mine. Like if I were going to an interview, I'd be wearing this. I have business cards that are personal. They're black and magenta. I have an iPad cover is black and magenta. I have my portfolio is on an app on my iPad, and everything follows through with the colors and everything. So I try and hopefully, you know, maybe that makes a difference in the end. Maybe that's why they're going to hire me, because like she really thought about it. She not only did she dress the part, but she, you know, she followed through with her branding as well. So that I find that important. And if somebody's going to present that to me, I know they really thought about it and took the time. And I appreciate that, because I know how I pay attention to that as well. So I always say dress the part. And then embrace your mentors. And that really goes for you guys as well, because I didn't have any mentors in any of my jobs. When I went to Design 446, my coworker Karen, she never even graduated, so I was really the senior person there. So fresh out of school, and you know, kind of the head of the department, so to speak. I went to Interior Motives. Again, there was another designer there, but I was more skilled than she was. So I was in an opportunity, I guess, and I've kind of fought my way through it, and you know, I educated myself. I came back to Brookdale on several occasions to take many different courses. I probably have enough credits here to have a master's degree, so Brookdale, if you're ever issuing one, I'm sure I could just sign right up and they'd be like, oh yes, you have 1 million classes here. You definitely, here's your degree. So embrace your mentors, learn from them. I wish I had them, because there's so much that I, you know, and I tend to be this person that is kind of is a go-getter, a leader. So for me that was, I don't want to say easy, but if I couldn't figure something out, I bought a book. I mean, I have more books than you can imagine. I went on the internet. You know, I was constantly seeking information. When I went to my first job and I needed more CAD experience, I came back and took CAD on the other side of the campus when they did a computer-aided drafting and design certificate, and went through that program because I just feel like I needed a boost on that. When I needed Photoshop, I came back and did some digital drafting and design. They have a certificate, so I took some Photoshop class. So I went after it, but if you have that, you know, in your scope of what you're working with, embrace it, ask questions, and, you know, learn from them. Because for me, I didn't have it, but if you have it, like, that's golden. The next bit of advice is sometimes, and a boss of mine said this, and she's not my favorite person in the world, but this is the best piece of information I took away from that. She always used to say, sometimes you have to take your designer hat off and you have to put your engineering hat on, because guess what? It's not all about the colors, and it's not all about the design. That's maybe 20 to 30% of what I do. Admin, how things work, how the wall comes together. You can't just say, I'm going to plop this dimensional panel on the wall. How does that integrate with the door? How does the trim work? How are we going to finish that? How's it going to work with the floor? All those type of things, there's more of an engineering aspect to it, having those pieces come together. So sometimes when you're specifying things, you kind of have to take that designer hat on because you want it to look very pretty, and you have to put that engineering hat and figure out how's this all going to work together. And then finally, network, 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 and be nice to your sales reps. Every job I've gotten has been because I knew somebody. Karen got me into Design 446, and she was a friend here. She got that job because her husband knew it was a colleague of his. So when I went to Interior Motives, actually a wall covering rep said, that's how I got that job. She said, they're hiring. Would you like me to recommend you? Yes. That's how I got into Interior Motives. When I got into Clark, Caton, and Hinst, it was my 3-form rep who said, send your resume to Michael Nelson, which I did, and that's how I ended up there. So I think your reps are your best friends. Some designers have a different view of that, but for me, they know, they're traveling to all the design firms that are local. They know who's coming, who's going, and in some cases, what's a nice place to work in a nice environment and what's not. So they're priceless to me, and I'd like to keep my relationships with them always going. Some of them are very close personal friends of mine. But I would say be nice to your sales rep and networking, because that's how I've gotten all my jobs. None of them have been off of, I've read an ad somewhere and applied. Never online. I've submitted 1 million applications online to a multitude of firms and rarely ever got a call back. But the networking, that's the key. And that's it. That concludes, I guess, my part of this. Here to help anybody. I mean, I love the students. And going back to that networking, we just hired, I was looking for an intern because I'm like completely overwhelmed at the job. And so I finally convinced them that we needed an extra person. Lauren Ferrero, who is a graduate of the interior design program here. I called Celeste and I'm like, please, God, help me. Send me somebody. And so this came through Celeste. She said, okay, I'm going to send you something. She sent me Lauren's phone number. I said, send me your resume, send me your portfolio, and it was easy as that. She's currently a student at Kane. She's graduating in May. She was awesome when she came in. We're glad to have her. She's there 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Fridays. She has classes on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And hopefully when May comes, we'll hire her full time. So again, that was all just through networking and keeping relationships open and going. So, and if you have any questions about anything that I've ever done or how I can help you, I'm always open. I have brought business cards, so feel free to email me. If you want to call me, I'm all yours. So. Yes.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, you're welcome.
So you've done so many different things in your
I have.
career. What is the learning curve like? And also, what are some things that you carry through from each job and each area of design?
Learning curve is a learning curve. I mean, you kind of just roll with the punches because you can't always choose the projects you can't really choose the projects that you're coming in. If you don't have your own design firm and you're saying, yes, I'm going to take on this project and that, it is what it is. So you have to just, I think somebody mentioned research. I'm constantly looking for different imagery, even in the office with the different architects who are sending stuff. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I have this absolutely amazing project that I'm doing now that has nothing to do with education. It is a humongous industrial building that is in Passaic. It's going to be a multitude of things, a supermarket, a food court eatery, there's a lobby component, there's 2 parking garages, there's 150 something apartments, there's a banquet hall, there's a retail mall, and we, even with that, I've never done a food court before. You kind of just have to jump right in and take advantage of that. So I just do research and kind of pull from that. And I think from every job, I think the best part was Design 446 for me was the graphics, and I keep carrying that through. They're a huge part of what is going on just in design today. You can see that through Contract Magazine. A lot of these corporate interiors work has these very large scale graphics. So that I've kind of like just that little part of it was a great experience. I've kind of taken that and I'm kind of stressing that where I'm at now. Let's bring a graphic designer in because it's just going to amp us up. It's going to make us better. So I have a friend, again, who was a colleague, and he now has his own business. He used to work for Design 446. He's coming into the office on Tuesdays to have a meeting so we can do graphics for us at Brook Avenue. And hopefully that'll go through with, as you're seeing, through the William Patterson project, so we have a little more control over that. So, anybody else, questions?
So you mentioned that you took a lot of classes at Brookdale.
I did.
Were there any that you took that weren't related to interior design that you feel helped progress your knowledge and helped you in the field?
The business part, when I was uber focused, and I finished that degree when I got a liberal arts degree, but with a focus in business. I think that really had helped me because you're always, like again, somebody mentioned, you're always selling yourself, but you can design the most beautiful space, but it all comes down to budget in the end. I mean, we have an adjacent project to that Thunderbolt Technologies project that we're doing, and we had to basically chew down. They refused to give us a budget, and they said, how much is the furniture going to be? And it ended up being like, I don't know, 120, 130,000, and we had to keep working it down until it was like basically $75,000. So, you know, that background of kind of being a business end of it, and how do I keep the things that I want, but sacrifice, whether that means going from a wood to a laminate, but you kind of keep the same design concept going. You know, all of that, I think, the business end of things and being able to talk to people and communicate. I took some communications class, I'm sure that helped. I loved taking the AutoCAD classes, even though I thought that it was going to be more architecturally based, and I'm not even sure that they offer them anymore. Do they? Oh, they do. The first couple classes we took AutoCAD, but it was taken almost, we did it from a totally different perspective. We were drawing pieces, because not only designers use AutoCAD, like engineers, many different professions use AutoCAD. We were drawing like gears and nuts and all these pieces that kind of came together. And I don't know what it was about moving away from this floor plan, space planning thing and going into something that was totally different. We were basically making all these gears and parts, and at the end of the class, everything that you kind of made like went together. Just taking your mind out of that and putting it into something different was like, the light bulb went off and I was like, ah, yes, this is wonderful. So I've taken Revit classes too. Not here, I took that at another location up in Hoboken, but that was priceless, and that was sort of architecturally and interior design based, but it came from a different perspective, so that was priceless for me, and it really helped amp my skills up. So.
Taryn, I love your journey. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
You see the progression of how you just grew in the industry. I'm curious though, when you left here, day you left here, what were you thinking you were going to be in? Was this the arena that you planned on being in?
Yes, I never wanted to be a residential designer. That just wasn't what my cards were. I know it's very fussy. You're dealing with high-end people who have a lot of money and sometimes not a lot of time to do anything else. So I just had some friends that did residential design. It was like, they'd get phone calls over fringes and trim, and I'm like, that's not going to work for me. So I always knew I wanted to end up on the commercial side of things. I didn't really say I wanted to be here, there, so I kind of just dove in where it was possible, and it's kind of taken me to a lot of different places, which is nice because I think sometimes firms really focus on one thing, but when, the recession hit, guess what? So people stopped spending money. So if you were uber focused in one particular area and you couldn't expand your portfolio and try and get business from other industries, most of those design firms ended up sinking in the end. So I think for me, just having all that ability, and they all kind of interrelate, and I kind of take a little bit from each industry, and it kind of got me to where I am today. And this Brook Avenue project, which is huge, as I mentioned, I'm going to be able to do all of that in one, which is awesome. So there's a little bit of my whole past that kind of is going to follow through with that, and we're having really success. The client is super happy. One of the little idiosyncrasies about that job, it's for the Orthodox Jewish community. So there's a lot of little things that we need to consider as far as finishes are concerned. There's a modesty issue with glass and how much opaqueness that we have, and I pay a lot of attention to that because it's really important to them. So those kind of little touches, the client, the owner really appreciates that, and he's funding it. He's one of these people who have, I don't know how much money, so and I just I like to spend his money, so hopefully and he likes me, so I'll just keep doing that. Any other questions?
I know you said you don't do the renderings yourself.
I don't.
But what software do they use in your office to do those renderings? Dan he starts off in a SketchUp model, and so he models it in SketchUp, and then he uses Lumion. So he brings the SketchUp model into Lumion. There was a reason that they did that. That Dan actually used to work. He lives in Freehold. I think he used to work for MMA, which is kind of a local firm, and they do a lot of retail establishments, Walmarts, and some CVS's and stuff like that. So he used to work key for them, and he's awesome at what he does. He has a real photographer type of eye. they went to Lumion because typically it was done through 3D Max or some sort of program like that, and they're expensive to maintain, and not to mention they're time consuming. And there was something about the hard drive and the way that it worked that you weren't pulling the amps as much from the hard drive. So like he'll do, I'll say change this to that and change that, and I'll stand there and he'll press a button, and it's done. So it's not like we have to wait 4 hours for something to render. It's almost instantaneous. So he'll make some of the change in SketchUp, and then he goes back into Lumion and tweaks it, and then he basically presses go, and it goes, it was like 20 seconds, and then we have the updated rendering. So it's fast, and that's part of the reason, and it's easy to use, and it's less expensive, I think, than 3D Studio Max. So.
Since you've done a variety of projects, what kind of work would you say is your favorite to do?
I do like the education now. I like the whole idea of Brook Avenue is amazing to me because we're going to incorporate some retail in it. I guess I sort of got a little bit of that from Design 446 because we were doing sales offices and kind of retail location, so that's nice. Overall, we're going to have also a multifamily housing aspect to it, so that's going to be nice because I've done that. That's kind of my gig. I've done them a million times, so I'll be able to bring a lot to the table with that. I don't know if there's one particular area that I really prefer over another. I like the variety, and I wouldn't be happy, I guess, if we only did education because it's just, some of it is the same thing a little bit, and it can be a little draggy from the point of it takes a really long time for budgets to go through and things to get approved and kind of that whole process. So this Brook Avenue project is kind of a nice diversion from the same thing over and over and over again. And with the Thunderbolt, one of the project managers who's an architect, we're trying to expand our corporate portfolio, so that's kind of nice as well. So it's not just focused on one thing.
I really love what you did with the tile flooring when you kind of made those curves and everything. And I was just wondering, as far as the resources that you use, as far as when you had that inspiration to do that, who did you work alongside with to be able to know, like, the engineering aspect, like that this can be done and how it's going to be done as far as cutting the tile?
Well, that is resilient floor, so it's like sheet vinyl. Again, I go back to my sales reps. Some of it is obviously I was looking at that and I knew it could be done. It was just a matter of what's the right product and then what's the right product for a hospital. So narrowing that down. And then I like communication with them. I mean, there's times that I call some of my sales reps on the way home and I'm like, I just did this the other day. We have this job and I need it to be $2 a square foot, and we have it's actually the National, this is another one of our one-off products, the National Guard Museum in Seagirt. We're redoing their museum for them. I think it got ruined in Sandy, and they're putting this big tank thing in there, submarine. And so we have a rolling load issue. So I said, hey, Scott, he's a Spartan Surfaces guy, and I'm like, I don't really want to use VCT because we have no budget. We can't use tile. Like, what do you suggest? And he suggested this quartz tile, and I kind of play with them to find out can this work, doesn't that work? So they're kind of invaluable to me in that regard. And then now it's great to be in an office with 15 other architects because the detailing part about it, I never was in an environment where I was in with architects all the time. So there's kind of this lapse of education between, they really know how to put things together, and then, you have to kind of think about, like, how am I going to detail that? And that's not always an easy thing to figure out. So thank God they're all very nice to me, and I'm kind of like, what do you think about this? How do I transition that? And they will come to the table and help. Before, I guess with that particular project, I would have went to John, one of the guys at Sermonera, or we would either research it or ask a sales rep. It's not always easy. I guess I'm very determined to get my way. So I kind of go after something, and it's like I'm not going to stop until I can get what I want.
By not being
Able to do it.
Yeah.
you want to or you can't, you just want to.
Right, and if I
pursue it and
couldn't
say,
do it
"This
with
is
a
my vision."
particular product, I would ask them, well,
What product
what do
can I
you
use?
recommend using? Or what do you think is right for this space? And they have an arsenal of, precedents that they've done and projects that they've worked on, so they're able to dig into that. And sometimes they'll go back to those files, and they have experts within, whether it's shawl carpet or crossfill tile, they have their own set of experts as well that can kind of help. So if you just embrace them and kind of say, I really have this problem, they're pretty willing to help because they want to sell you the product in the end. So
Okay, beautiful.
thank you. Anybody else? Good? Thank you.